year. Customer clientele. I was broke, that was last year. Getting money like cashier. Get the money like a cashier. Benjamin.
Welcome everybody.
That's my brother.
Oh,
we are live, aren't we? I'll be darned. Look at all this gray hair. Sheesh. Doggone it. Man, stress in the house. Hey, welcome. My name is Marcus Ivy.
Kevin.
Stefania.
I'm Hashim Coates, also known as Hot Shade.
Mike Carter, aka Paperboy. Aloha.
Oh, we got it right. We got it right. Ladies and gentlemen. Got it right. Hey, so this is going to be a slight deviation, I think, from our normal show.
A little bit.
We're going to talk a smidgen bit about politics. And then we got to address a question. And I'm going to try to post this question up because I think it's a pretty important question to have.
Can you share it? Share it to DBT.
Amongst us black folks. You know what I mean? Is it just me? But it has to be discussed. But anyway, this past Thursday, who do we have on the show?
Yeah, we had Congressman Jason Crow on the show. Kind of as Carter called it, a little bit of a more somber episode. We're talking about the episodes of January 6th and, got a little bit of real talk and, got a little window into the mind's eye of our representative. Talk to us, Carter.
It was a special episode, different strokes, a very special episode. Facts of Life, very special episode. That's all I saw.
Oh, what was so different? Because I couldn't stay the whole time, and that's why it was a somber show.
Well, I was going to say.
Oh, you guys are too kind.
We missed you.
You cussed on the episode, and then you wanted to dip out early.
It seemed there was a lot less tension.
No, what he said was it was a shade-free show. That's what he said.
So, lot less tension. You took my recommendation and started eating more fiber.
All I know.
And there's the shade.
And you know what? We went a whole show without any shade. We went 2 minutes, not counting the stuff we said before the cameras turned on.
And you know what? Hey, part of the DBT family, Jason Hennington texted me. I was like, hey, we're going to be, hopping on here. And he said they're still recovering from no power and water for a few days. So I'm not putting any pressure on them to come on here. But shouts out to everybody in Texas that's still, suffering and dealing with apparently hell freezing over. According to Senator Cruz, it appears that, pigs have flown and that climate change is solved.
So when you say pigs have flown, are you talking about how he hopped on a flight?
3, 2, 1, Cancun.
And pigs flew back. Yeah, but just talking about everybody out there in Texas, man, sending love out there, and we're gonna have to get in touch with some people out there. At least I do. I got a ton of people out there.
My father. So Thursday we had our meeting. We did the show, and I was having a Zoom meeting with my siblings and my father after the show, and he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to do it until his power came on, and his power came on like about an hour before we kind of did our meeting. So that was crazy because he's living out there in just a little bit south of Sugar Land. I think it's Richmond, Texas is where it's at. So they're dealing with it out there too, and it's crazy.
So,
all right.
I want to give my sympathy and condolences to the families in Texas who have actually had loss of life, had family members loss of life due to this sudden freeze that their families didn't make it through. Yes. So they get my sympathies. Hopefully this is a lesson for people in Texas, out of Texas, of your government. You get what you do and do not vote for. Yeah. Texas, if people aren't aware, Texas sits on its own grid. Like the majority of Texas sits on its own power grid, while the United States is divided up. Kansas is to the east, we're to the west, and their own grid structure on that power. But Texas is on their own thing, and it has shown that they are not able to withstand. I don't even think they were below zero there, right?
No, it was like 30 degrees.
It's like
So they were just at freezing.
No. They hit 19, 10. It was below freezing.
But it wasn't below zero.
freezing. But you know,
Right.
they have higher humidity in Texas, so the feels like in the
Right.
wind chill.
That's
30 degrees in Texas is different from 30 degrees here.
Okay.
It really is.
But I'm still concerned about, like, how are they not able to sustain this for 2 days? Right? Like, is it a
When you
quality
get
of the workmanship? Is it the lack of preparation? If they didn't do the rolling blackouts, there would have been a power failure, right? If they didn't start shutting it off, there were moments before the entire system was like, yeah, we good.
Right.
I'm another one. My mother lives in Round Rock. And I've been talking to Jason and all my cousins, and there were two things that happened. One, they literally, this is not just a once in a 10 years. This is an impressive freeze that they had. There was ice in Galveston Bay. That is, go look at your map. That's south of the border of Mexico. And so they've been building this power structure, this power grid that was designed and has worked for X number of years. About 10 years ago, we had a freeze down there, a real one, not this bad, but a real one. And they, instead of kind of bringing the devices up to code, they just kept doing what they were doing normally. They kept using the same structures, the same strategies. And one of the things that Hashim said was the majority of Texas is not on the grid. El Paso, which is on the same grid as Colorado and New Mexico and the stuff to the west, El Paso's fine. It was the fact that this grid was so insulated and not equipped for what happened is why it went dead. My mother, who I have been texting with every day to the point where she was tired of me, lives, like I said, right outside of Austin, a little town called Round Rock, not little anymore. She had power and water and lights and food and living her best life. But you go 2 miles to the east, and I've got cousins who no water, no power. Okay, the power just came on, but we can't drink the water. It's just, you knew it was coming, but once again, like Hashim said, if you continue to elect individuals to destroy government, eventually you are going to have no government. And this is what it is. This is the Wild West power struggle. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this question. I thought Texas was completely self-regulating. So there are parts that are connected to the so you said El Paso, so they're connected to the interconnect, the West Interconnect?
Yep. And so, if you look at the states around Texas, you look at New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, who are having the exact same issues with weather. None of that came out. And the bigger issue is Texas is energy rich, period. It is. And
but let's be clear, energy rich of fossil fuels, natural gas,
wind
and
they
solar. Got wind, sun,
wind
yes.
and solar. West Texas is
they
West
got it
Texas,
all.
Look,
but
and so
that's what's failed them though.
Well, instead of putting them on the grid,
hey, my mama told me she saw the wind turbine outside and it stopped spinning, and then the lights went smooth on out.
Okay, well,
that's not what happened. Y'all know that's not what happened.
And here's the thing. Well, there's a wind turbine in western Colorado or in eastern Colorado that has a certain level that it needs to maintain regarding weather. And then there's a wind turbine in Texas. They don't have the same code. And so what should have happened if Texas was on the grid? All of this would have went to crap. Texas would have said, okay, we need more power. And they would have went to the surrounding states and just got more power, just like we do. Just like, if there's a natural disaster, just like California does.
It's like when your lights get cut off, you shoot the extension cord over to the neighbor and you goody.
Yeah, yes. You go, Brother Hashim, plug this in for me.
Don't teach that.
Don't teach that. See, but that's part of their issue is they don't want regulation. And so their items are not up to code. There's no reason that a turbine should freeze. when it's properly insulated, properly antifreezed. It's just got to be antifreeze, properly oiled. There's no reason.
They also have self-heating.
That's
mechanisms as well.
well.
Yes.
Look, it was coded for something completely different.
Hot
It
weather
was coded for something completely different.
but
It was
also code enforcement. Keep in mind, in a conservative state, there won't be enough people to actually make sure anything's up to code anyway. So these people will fly under the radar with all kinds of BS going on.
How many different electric companies are in Colorado?
We have
In
two,
Texas.
two, maybe three.
Like 3 or
In
so.
Texas,
They
there
have
are multiples.
Yep.
And that was part of deregulation. That was part of,
Yeah.
okay, I can get you energy cheap. I can bring you energy cheap
They
because I can go out here, put up a windmill, and I can get you energy cheap machine because you're not paying for all that other regulation.
You get what you pay for.
they privatized it. Yeah. They
Yeah,
allowed
yes,
it to
it's
be
But it's
Less
not
regulation.
It's not working because, number one, these people are making their coin because competition is in the market, part of your capitalism. Competition is in the market. They're making their coin, but here's the problem. They're not keeping their stuff up to date, except the goal is that everyone will undercut everyone else so that you can get a better price. But their problem is with all this quote unquote competition, no one's keeping things up to proper code. And on top of that, they can also charge the heck out of you because there's no regulatory caps. So
Right.
now I read a couple of Twitters where they were showing their bill, that their bill is 20 and 30 times the normal cost, $950 for 3 days. Come on now.
Well-
and then they just jump from one company to the other.
Well, if there's no floor, there's also no ceiling.
Right.
So
Guys,
my bill was $2 a month because there was no floor. But now, part of the other side, it's like you said, it's all regulatory. It's all regulatory. They deregulated the market. There are certain things in the market that should not be deregulated, or they should not be under capitalism. They shouldn't be a free market. You like police officers, jails, things,
Prisons,
fire
emergency
trucks,
rooms.
emergency rooms. There's certain things that you as a society should provide for your citizens.
and also
Electricity and water.
Certain things
one of
shouldn't
them.
fluctuate, like those adjustable rate mortgages from the housing crisis and whatnot. But we're all complaining about this stuff. Why don't you just get rich and go to Cancun? I'm serious about this, guys. The problem is you need to get richer, don't you? That's what our system says. You have failed yourself. Get your bootstraps because we're a red state. We want Senator Ted Cruz, who's going to support business and not the people. We need, if you have healthcare issues, and what old buddy in Colorado City, what'd he say? He said, I don't got no sympathy for you guys. Make a plan and execute. God gave us all the tools we need. I think he did. And it was each other. We can lean on each other, in my true opinion, not the sarcasm. We can lean on each other and say, I want to be a part of a national network of power grids. I want us to make sure that we're up to certain codes and we have quality access to resources such as electricity and water. We're running out of water.
So
In the Lone Star State, I thought it was the best state.
So what happened to the guy from Colorado City, Texas, the mayor who resigned?
Yeah.
Because he's the one that put out the statement that said, fend for yourself. Government's not needed. Take care of yourself. Go out and get your own power. Is he advocating for violence against
No.
others to take their power?
What
Is
if
that
they
what he
keep-
mean by
He
fend for
was
yourself?
advocating for someone to come to his home
What if
and take from him.
Wow.
I mean,
It was an invite.
For people learning how to live off the grid.
let's be clear. That is a less than small town mayor saying crazy stuff. Would we all like
Man,
to
he's still
go?
elected official saying dumb stuff.
Hey man, that's
Would we like to go and find an elected official in this state and see what kind of crazy crap could come out of their
Oh,
mouth?
here we go with this.
his people?
Yeah.
Here we go with this. We are not excusing his piss poor ass behavior just because the world is full of other people that are intellectually deficient.
They
Right,
put
like,
not
themselves
excusing,
out
not
there
alone.
balancing.
Not excusing it, just not amplifying it.
Okay, well,
It was
drink
crazy.
some water. Because I'm gonna amplify it. How the hell does he win that election and talk about that when people are dying and in crisis?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
crazy.
And any idiot that does the same thing needs to have their behinds escorted off too. Period.
Well, I agree. He called people lazy. He said you need to you need to go out and procure your own water and electricity yourself. What does that mean?
10-4, Mayor, as they cock the 12 gauge. What are we asking for?
Yeah.
I mean, sheesh. But isn't that that's against the law to go and steal certain power? So what happened to the law and order side of things? Colorado City, Texas, I'm offended.
I don't think it's pronounced Colorado. I don't think it's pronounced Colorado. I think it has a different pronunciation.
Like that, right? What is pronounced?
Anyway.
Texas.
I think it's Colorado. I think it's Colorado. Honestly, I'm not even being that guy. I'm not even being that guy.
Okay.
I'm not being that guy as I am that guy.
I am that guy. I'm just,
aren't you?
I'm trying.
He's hiding his name tag. He's like, no,
I'm sorry. I have to just finish this quote. He said, folks, God has given us the tools to support ourselves in times like this. Sadly, this is a product of a socialistic government.
You know,
dude.
So let's imagine what socialism would have looked like under the Texas power grid. So first of all,
they'd have power.
Workers would have owned the means of production. So all the workers would be making a very good wage, and they would have ownership over that company. So they would be highly paid and highly motivated to make sure they don't lose their business. So they would have those things maintained to the highest, to higher standards than just it shuts down if the temperature goes down to 30 degrees, which even though that's low, guys, keep in mind, I was born in Texas in 1981. We had ice storms when I was a kid. We had icicles hanging off the side of our house. We had
that in Oklahoma too.
Yeah, you could not drive on the streets a lot of the days in the wintertime. It's just that sometimes, Christmas, you're wearing shorts. At Christmas. But there were ice storms back then, and we did not have blackouts going all the way out there in the 80s, 90s. That's when things start changing, right? And they start deregulating and all that stuff.
This is what happened.
You also had a Democratic governor in the 80s.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
Andrew Richards.
This is what happens when you make the word socialism a bad thing.
Yes, that has been perpetuated, particularly down there in Florida, about socialist being a bad word.
Yeah.
Well, if people truly understood what socialists and socialism was, they would probably think differently. Yeah. Because think about it, you in a socialism environment, you as workers, you as community members, you own these things as a community. Therefore, you regulate them as a community so that they benefit everyone.
Or
but
if
according
they really
to
hate socialism,
yeah,
they would not utilize the highways. They would not turn on their water. They would not even work on the power grid, right? Like, they wouldn't do sidewalks. They wouldn't do public schools. They wouldn't do libraries. And they would be like, yo, let's get rid of the U.S. military. The biggest socialistic program we have in America.
And the police.
Right.
And the police and the fire department.
But they've weaponized that word, and it's and most people don't understand what it really is.
Yep, it's a lack of education.
There it is.
And when we look at where the textbooks come from, deep in the heart of Texas.
Well,
show us.
First of all,
what is it again?
I want two things. I want to say two things. One, as we are.
There it is.
At least once a show.
As we are denigrating Texas and their creeping capitalism, I want you to go out to I-70, and I want you to look at between I-70 and I-25 the new lanes that they're building or the new highway they're building, and tell me what you see that's different from every other highway they built.
Oh, the toll road.
Toll road.
Yes,
yeah.
that is
capitalism.
Yeah, so
we're not immune.
Beltway
that is something that everyone will use.
What are you talking about? We're not immune.
No.
Just because it's not Texas. It's
okay. No one said we're immune. Stop. Get out your feelings, brother.
But check it out. So Beltway 8.
Obviously, you got out that raggedy state of Texas, but all right.
I'm gonna hit mute.
You got 4 out of 5 from Texas.
Why? Like everybody here has somebody who's either from Texas or lives in Texas.
Yeah.
Texas is huge. How do you not? But Beltway 8 that goes all the way around Houston, it's basically like the city limits, was a toll road, and it's supposed to be no more toll after it's built and completed. And I used to live right on the belt. I went back for family reasons, and it is all toll now. There was an area that was not toll, and I got over there, and it took me forever. I'm having to ride with all those red lights. They're just continuing the toll. and they're making it where you can't even expect it to stop. You go to Austin, all kinds of highways, and then what happened over the last, say, 10 years? What happened over the last 10 years in Austin?
Because people allow that to happen.
Yeah,
right. Like
225. Anybody? Not 225. E470. E470.
Here
was
in
supposed
Colorado,
to be the same thing.
Legislature decided to allow this to happen. Right? They didn't read the bills, and I believe this is when Morgan Carroll. We can ask her about it when she comes on the show, but they didn't read the bill that said about this. And so that's how we got the toll on 36, right? And they privatized it. I'm not.
Thank you. That's what it is. They privatized it.
I'm not completely against tolls, but that should be state owned.
Mm-hmm.
And that money needs to go back to the infrastructure to maintain those toll roads. And anytime we have a surplus, like it fixes the other roads, like the state is responsible for. So here they are privatizing these roads. I bet you CDOT's going to be the ones out there cleaning them off during the snow.
Oh, they will.
To hell with that. Like, enough. But the people have to stand up and be on their elected officials. Can I say it? Be on their butts.
No. Yeah. And when people say
be on the thing that Jesus rode on, which was an ass, right?
Yeah. But when people say elections have consequences, they don't really think about, hey, my roads. They don't think about, is there going to be a toll so I can get from work to home every single day for the rest of my career? They don't think about it like that. But hey, if you like small government, then you like paying to drive.
Yep.
Right.
Well, I do think that C470 is still owned by Colorado. There was an offer from some folks in Canada.
E470. Yeah.
E470.
It's still owned by Colorado. There was an offer from some folks in Canada, and I remember this a while ago. I couldn't find it, where they had offered to purchase E470 to basically fund their retirement coffers up in Canada, and they chose not to do that, which is a good thing because E470 has been in the black for years.
Well, they should be. You got a toll.
My understanding was that but there was a time limit. Once it paid for itself, it was supposed to become a non-toll road.
Right.
And that has not happened.
Nope.
But you know what has happened? C470
is now becoming toll. Yeah.
I want some of that.
Yeah.
And now there are toll roads that are being placed on C470.
Yep.
Yeah. Gimme. There is. We are becoming.
How is this
New
little
York,
one-horse town
New
doing
Jersey,
all this
and
stuff?
Texas,
like, what the hell?
Chicago, all in one.
Platinum.
So,
Not sure what the string.
No.
Another thing about how elections have consequences. So most of us here are first COVID shot in.
Mm-hmm.
There was a thing going on in Florida, the good state of Florida. I wish we could do that Looney Tunes thing sometimes and just cut the state off. When they got their distributions, the amount to distribute for the COVID vaccine, there was 2 area codes, and I forget the city, or 2 zip codes that received notice of this as the richest and the whitest zip codes in this county. They were the only ones, that's where the COVID shot setup sites were, right? So it's the county that has like the highest number of seniors, but the shots went to the most too affluent zip codes in that county. And the punk governor, I stopped the other word, it got on the mic and said, well, if you don't like it, we'll take it out the county. Florida, you brought this on yourselves.
Oh yeah. I mean,
yeah.
And even a Republican county commissioner spoke up against it, right? And now the Republican Party has turned against her and said this is nothing more than this. This is what happens because of a Joe Biden administration.
Okay. All right.
You got to expect that to be their go-to for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
For everything
they mess up, it's going to be the Democrats' fault.
Yeah, that's going to be their go-to answer.
We are 3 weeks in, and they've already started writing there how Joe Biden has destroyed the country.
Yeah.
We've hit 30 days. We've hit 30 days.
Hey, let's talk about destroyed country. So NBC News is reporting that U.S. life expectancy has fallen by 1 year as COVID causes the biggest drop in life expectancy since World War II. Now that's average. Hold on a second, Mike. Black Americans lost 3
That's-
years of life
yes.
expectancy, and Hispanics lost almost 2 years of life expectancy.
That's the part I wanted you to get to. That
Absolutely.
we lost 3 years.
We
of
lost
life
3 years of life expectancy
Now,
during all this.
So get deep for me on this. 3 years. Is this for all Black folks? And is this for those who catch it or those who don't catch it? Or is it as a result of the stress imposed by it that physically and physiologically and mentally and emotionally we lose these years?
I would
It's across the board.
It's
It's across the board.
The
answer is yes.
Yeah.
So
right?
I'd hate to be, in other words, I'd hate to be a Black teacher whose life expectancy is a little bit less because of the stress of teaching, and then toss in COVID.
Yeah.
Huh.
Or and then also has these comorbidities in their family already, just through the averages built in, and already has a lower life expectancy to begin with before they even start teaching.
Wow.
Now they're defining life expectancy as how long a baby born today can expect to live on average if death rates stay the same. So there's, statistics get crazy because there's provisional life expectancy. There's all different types of life expectancy. So it does get deep, but it's hitting literally 3 times as hard for these people.
Well,
we had a lot more stress going in.
Yeah, I mean, as the great poet James Baldwin said, to be relatively conscious, Black in America, I'm paraphrasing now because I messed it up. To be relatively conscious in Black in America is to be in a constant state of rage.
Yeah.
Constant state of rage.
wow. That's right. So how do we change that? How do we flip that? What's the scenario? How do we change that in that aspect? Is it getting shots? There are still many Black folks who are skeptical of the vaccination shots. So how do we change that?
With our government? I mean, how do we change that? We got to rebuild that trust. And is it now? Is this the vaccine? We were willing to get our MMRs, our measles, mumps, and rubella. Our parents took us. As a child, our parents took us to get every shot that we were supposed to get, at those major milestones. But we come here, and as adults, we're not willing to go and get this one.
I got mine.
I think that was the nene.
Yeah, I think that was.
We got to figure out
the
what
seated version
is in our community, and we've got to try and rebuild that trust.
So it all boils down to me always, well, not always, often on many things as it relates to politics, as it relates to basically a lot of things. We have to do a better job at educating ourselves. And the system has to do a better job at educating the people and the masses. And listen, I am never going to ignore what happened with Tuskegee. I'm never going to ignore what happened with the sterilization of Black and Latin and Puerto Rican women. I'm never going to ignore the fact that they look at us and think, oh, we don't feel pain because the color of our skin, that, the old racist ass Thomas Jefferson started up with his little narrative. I'm never going to forget anything like that, and understand that there are even med students in 2020, or was it 2019 I read, they were even surveyed and they're like, oh yeah, well, they even thought that Black people felt pain differently. Mm-hmm. Like, what? So all that being said, I understand that science is still science. And this is what I'm talking about, the self-education, while taking into consideration that those things, I need to get the shot. And I was cool with getting the shot, right? I mean, the numbers, the math, all that stuff worked out. Like, get the shot.
Absolutely.
Got my shot, no symptoms, waiting from a second one.
Now the hope is that there will be a second shot. In a sense, there's been a crunch. For instance, Texas has had a crunch and people were overdue for their second shot and they lost out because they canceled appointments because they didn't have the second dose ready. So my concern is the second dose. Will we be able to get the second dose, I guess, in that aspect?
I think only the Joe Biden voters should get the shots first. Okay, first. They should get them first.
Now, why would you be asking people who they voted for if we vote anonymously anyway?
I voted for Joe Biden. I ain't ashamed to say
I'm
it.
just
Give me my
saying,
shot.
there's a reason why you go into a booth or you mail in your ballot. And you go
Separate things. I don't
Statements
care.
made by Hashim Coates do not represent.
Yes. Hit him with yes.
I don't give. Listen. I don't care. Like, I understand, I respect all the privacy of voting, but the fact that somebody would look at me and make the assumption that I voted for Biden anyway because they already knew what the sorry sack of digestive fluid was on the other side of the other option, that's fine. I'll live with that. But listen, if I voted for Donald J. Trump, then I would be okay with how his plan for the shot distribution was, right? That's what he represented. He represented not having a plan. He represented calling this something that it's not. He represented not putting in the precautions. So why can't I live my values?
No.
Well, we don't want to get on. Do we really want to
Oh,
get
you're
on
right. You know what? I'm all right. Sister Gallegos, I will. Yes, I am with Sister Gallegos. We will not get on that hamster wheel.
Well, I
would just
say
keep going and going and going. And
Biden voters first.
No,
Democratic
But I am
voters
not.
first. We believe in science first.
do not engage.
You do
not
have a point there.
If you don't wear your mask, why are you in line to get a shot?
Right. Go towards the herd immunity. I'm just kidding, but I mean, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I see why you would say that.
I pick up the spirit of what Hashim is saying.
I said it.
I know exactly what he said.
You
I
gonna
just
run with it,
disagree with it.
Kevin?
Huh?
You gonna run with that? You said
No, I said I'm feeling the spirit of what he's saying. I'm not condoning that speech. But what he's
Thank you,
saying
Kevin.
is, what
But
he's saying is if you disagreed with it in the first place, and first of all, why are you over here? You said it was a hoax. I thought that was all
Why-
it was a psyop.
Why did the people in Florida even get a whole boatload of vaccines anyway? Because
This was just to put more money in Bill Gates' pocket. Remember, it was supposed to just be to give money to Bill Gates. Bill Gates turned out
Because
with this.
we are a country.
Yeah,
We are a country. I know. Oops.
yeah. So
Oops.
I'm not.
Ain't no oops.
50 states. 50
You
states.
don't twist it.
There's 50 stars on the flag.
Keep that
The
iron
50
out. No wrinkles. No wrinkles. I ain't letting no wrinkles happen.
50 stars.
It
You don't
touched
get to
the ground,
pick and
though,
choose
Carter.
And
which
they
one
want to
you like.
succeed. Bye.
They laid
Bye.
up
The
the
Republican
ground.
Party was
Stop
like, we want to
saying
succeed.
they.
We don't want to be a part of it. So like I'm saying, it supports my narrative. Republicans, back of the line.
Stop saying they. Stop
The
saying
Republican
they.
Party chair, since you didn't read it and don't know, the
Also-
Republican Party chair of the state of Texas said he wanted to succeed from the union. Well,
Carter,
take
what
yourself
do
to the
they
back
call,
of the
what do they
line.
call Texas? Texas is the Lone Star State. They're
Oh,
alone
dear
right
God.
now.
Oh my God.
Is he just your God, or is he everybody's
in
God?
Texas, everybody in Texas thinks alike, and everybody in
Yeah, I know.
Colorado thinks
Who
alike.
said that?
Of course not.
Don't you Fox
You're
News us?
No.
It's
Let's get to it.
Don't you Fox
Everybody in
News us?
Texas-
Nobody said everybody.
Okay. Well, then every Republican thinks alike.
I said, this is what I'm going to say. Like, you might need to rewind, breathe, so that like the pressure will let your eardrums open. I'm saying, I mean, whatever that takes, take one of the little fingers and dig out that wax so you can hear.
My
I'm
goodness.
saying that the Republican Party, I don't do well with that little cat stuff. The Republican Party needs to own what they want. If they want to succeed, deuces, don't depend on the American benefit.
And so what I said was, every Republican thinks
Some
alike.
bullshit.
Exactly. Every Republican thinks alike, which we all know is a lie.
So
Every
then if you
Democrat
said
thinks
it,
alike.
why are you trying to defend something you said?
Because
I never
that's your
said
argument.
that.
Because that's your argument.
No, it's
You're like,
not.
this is what the
Okay,
Republican
read
Party's
my,
platform
listen
is.
to the words.
What is the Republican
That
Party platform?
is not my argument.
Okay. So if I'm a Republican,
And you voted for Trump. That's what I said.
Then Republicans
You think-
that voted for Trump should not get the vaccine in
I
front of me.
said to the end of the line.
Not that they shouldn't get it, but they shouldn't
To
be
the end of
first
the line.
because
Alright.
they agreed with that
He
policy.
fixed it.
So
I didn't fix it. Rewind
So,
the tape.
yeah.
Originally what did
Rewind
you
the
say?
tape.
So here,
What'd
wait.
you
So
say?
we know where Hashim stands.
Hashim
Oh,
says-
Fox News want to be.
We know where Carter stands. At
Because
the end
I'm
of the
not.
day,
We
But
keep
here's the
getting
thing.
into this argument about monoliths.
at the
I
end
don't
of the
understand
day, everyone
You're not
needs
listening.
to get the vaccine so we can at least get back to some type of
normal.
normalcy. But let's be clear, normalcy before this was issues with BLM and all this other nonsense, in the sense of them saying that, you know, it doesn't matter. It does matter. We still need to get back to the root of what our issues have been and continue to be. That is, can Black folks get a fair shake? Can brown folks get a fair shake? Is the system rigged against Black and brown folks? Yep. If it is, how do we deal with it? Why don't we have more Black judges? Why don't we have more Black prosecutors? Why don't we have more Black police who live within the community? That's where we got it. So
owners of NFL teams, everything.
Exactly. So we need folks to get the vaccination so we can at least create the concept of herd immunity.
Let's assume everyone does get
Trump voters last.
So everyone gets vaccinated, and we're gonna go back to. I'm sorry, Stefan, you holding your hand up?
No, go ahead.
Let's say everyone's vaccinated. We're 100% immunity. COVID is over. Black people are still going to receive worse healthcare outcomes because they have not fixed those inequities in our healthcare system yet.
Mostly the mentality, because just like Hashim said, it's a mentality issue. When you, in 2019, you still believe or choose to believe that Black people feel pain differently and go through things differently. That's a mentality issue. That's not even, because we have Black doctors, they have Black peers. You cannot tell me that you're sitting right across from your Black peer and think that they feel pain differently than you do in 2019. That's a mentality issue. That's an ignorant issue.
I'm just thinking,
that's an ignorance issue. Like
if
you said, Hashim.
The Democrats did not win the election, what situation would we be in right now?
It'd be tough. Herd immunity.
It'd be this. We would still be in a situation with no plan on how to erase this.
Yeah.
I'm still concerned about Florida in that aspect because they have no plan. They're wide open, and we don't know what the real numbers are.
No, we don't.
I try not to think about what would be and could be at this stage, and I'm really trying to focus on where we're trying to get to at this point. Everybody's sick of being stuck at home. Everybody's sick of not having their kids in school. I want my son to go back to college. I'm ready to buy that $20 plane ticket so it can put him on Frontier and get him back to Las Vegas so he can go to school.
Frontier, what do you do?
I want him to go. You know,
what do you do, man?
He can't even fly Southwest, huh? Frontier.
No, it could be worse. He could have said
$20.
Speaking of that, speaking in our children, please be aware of your children's mental issues right now. We are social people by nature, and them not being able to interact with their friends and their peers affects them. And so we have an increased rate right now of teen suicide because they're not getting that normalization. Please keep your children, please keep them, be mindful of their
suicide in general has been going up. And we notice it in pets, right? Stefan, you talk about you have a COVID dog. People have animals that were born during COVID and have not been socialized with other families, other people, other animals, and they're different, right? We have an animal in our house that was a COVID puppy.
We do too.
They're different. They are different. And it's like, man, you can't just take them out to the dog park the way we used to. You can't just have people over the way you used to. So they're not getting the same treatment. And when I speak about dogs, it makes me think about, remember that lady that called the cops on the Black man that was bird watching in Central Park?
Mm-hmm.
They was choking her poor dog to death while she was trying to call 911 with the fakeness. They just dropped the charges.
I believe.
You remember the bird dog? He didn't want charges against her because she suffered enough. You remember that? Okay.
Yes. Why do we do that? Why do we have Stockholm syndrome where we always think that we must forgive our assailants?
That's the Jesus freaks. That's the Bible. Turn the other cheek.
Look
forgive
here.
your enemy.
Member, I ain't giving you a hug. I ain't hugging if you shoot my family member. You call the cops on me for looking at birds. I'm pressing criminal charges. I'm taking you to civil court, and I'm gonna help them castigate you as well. I'll go and do media and whatnot, and talk about how damaging this is, and start a fund and maybe, you know, help give some scholarships to some Black kids or something like that off of the money we can raise off of your ignorance and racism. I'm not
I
going
don't know what I would do in that situation, but it floors me when I see it sometimes, especially in certain situations, because if the roles were reversed, that man would have been prosecuted to the nth degree of the law, and she would have been the main one forcing it.
You know, if you see me going to give a hug, record it.
Because we'll never see it again, right?
Record it, because like, oh, he's going for the ratings on this one. Yeah, like to hug the murderer of my brother, of my sibling, of my loved one, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
Like I said, I don't know what I would do in that situation.
But on that Bird story, so the charges were dropped, and now the attorney had actually spoken about suing. And I forget what damages he was thinking about suing for as well. Because he's running it as an acquittal on her, and I really, this one, it went in one ear and out the other. I'm like, that's some old crazy mess, and that's why he should have went through a prosecution on her, because there is no punishment for white supremacy, only rewards.
Well, hey,
and I'm more than willing to back down if someone can show me an example of punishment for white supremacy.
She went to 5 classes to help re-educate her on racial sensitivities and whatnot. And you know, Coca-Cola did something very similar. Coca-Cola put out well, not similar. Coca-Cola took that to the extreme. They instituted this video training. I was just listening to this whole thing on a podcast. They're telling them they should like feel guilty for being white, and you know, confusing whiteness with being a white person. Instead of talking about white supremacy and saying be aware of that, they were just saying, hey, if you're white, learn to listen more and blah blah blah, just saying all these different things. And I feel like they take it to the nth degree, but there's no way that you can give someone a pamphlet or give someone a video or make people sign up on a document that's going to wipe away their white supremacy. You're not going to make them sign a check that's going to take it away. You're not going to have them get a credit for it that's going to take it away. If they're white supremacists and they have these learned biases, it's going to take a long process for them to unlearn them and to stop those racist and white supremacist habits.
Yeah.
If it ever happens.
And that's assuming if it ever happens.
It'll happen when they start getting punished for it.
If it ever happens.
Right, which means it will never happen.
Isn't true. People, it's like people that move away from religion, but they still have a fear of hell ingrained in them because that was something that they had nightmares about. They may not believe that the Bible is true, but they may be like, man, I still feel like if I express myself as a trans woman, that I will go to hell. Right? It's some things that you can never let go of. You will act as if the second belief is true, but you can never quite let go of the residuals because you were raised on it. It's part of your culture. That's what your mama told you when you were a kid, all the way up until your adulthood. That's what your whole community told you. It's a norm for your brain. It's hard to break those things.
So here's the thing though, do we care whether they're white supremacists or not? If that's your belief, that's your belief. But when you act on that belief and it affects other people, that's when you should be punished. That belief isn't going to, you're right, that belief isn't going to go away, but you put it back in your little pocket, bury it back where it used to be. But when you act on it and you bring it and you start saying things and doing things that show your white supremacy, there should be a punishment for that. And perhaps that will dissuade people from doing it over and over and over again. Now they're out there.
What do y'all think? Y'all care about white supremacy on its own? Or do you just care if they act on it?
What'd you say?
I'm asking Hashim and Carter and Marcus, do y'all care if they're just white supremacists in here and never do anything about it? Or do you only care if they act on those beliefs?
I don't believe it can be separated. I believe that the creation of white supremacy is based upon action, right? So to be white and to be a white supremacist does not mean that you are passive.
Really? You don't think that they
That's
can
not an
ride in their
answer.
car?
That's not an answer. It's
It
not an
kind of
answer.
is. You don't think that somebody could be a white supremacist, ride in their car, have a black person cut them off, and keep going about their business? I mean, say it in your car, do what you need to do. But when you get out of your car and start calling somebody,
that's a specific action. So I think there are other. It can be suppressed. It doesn't have to act on everything. So here's my answer. I don't feel that they are separate.
which is, I'm not going to answer the question.
Well, I'm sorry, boss. How would you like me to answer the question?
And that would be deflection.
No, how would you like me to answer it?
He asked you, can you be a white supremacist? Not can you be a white supremacist? In your head, if you have those thoughts in your head, do you care if that person never acts on those thoughts? I hate blank. Fill in whatever you want to call it. But I never act on hating blank. Does that matter?
If I don't believe...
No.
What I want one of the other...
And the question
I
was...
would rather they keep it to themselves,
be.
but that's impossible to do.
It's do you
Is
care?
it?
Yes, it is. Name me a white supremacist that has been a white supremacist and never acted on white supremacy.
I don't know them. They never acted on it.
So then they weren't a white supremacist. Or you're trying to take this stance and you don't grasp what white supremacy is. Because if we believe that being silent is the same thing as giving consent, silence is complicit.
So check it out. Check it out, Carter. If a judge never acts on their white supremacist thoughts, it still may color where they fall on a decision. And they may not have said, I am going to vote guilty. I'm going to declare this person guilty because they are Black, but they may be more inclined to, on average, across all of their cases.
That would be them acting on it. My question, and that's
agree.
why I'm backed it up, and that's why I asked the question. We all have our own thoughts and issues. When we start punishing people on what they're thinking, but not what they're doing, we should all be scared.
How do we...
And yeah, so I had to think about that. I agree.
So you can't punish someone on what they're thinking, because how do you know?
That was the question.
True.
That was the question.
So I guess in a sense, this is in fairy world, because if a person has these thoughts, but they don't act upon them, we wouldn't know.
No one knows.
And so I get that aspect, but I guess that can be scary to an extent. But I agree with Carter. If you don't say it explicitly, but there are actions that you take which would lead one to believe that's worrisome. But that is acting on it. That's acting out.
So I don't know if anyone remembers the Oprah episode of when she had on the descendants of the rapist, Thomas Jefferson. She had the Jefferson side and the Hemming side. And there was an argument that came from the Jefferson side that it was not rape.
Because they're property.
Well, I don't even think they got into that deep, right?
But okay, I was going to say, what was
advanced learning, right? So they didn't even think that. So if we don't define what racism is, if we don't define what white supremacy is, we will think that we have to stop looking at it as being so black and white and understand that it actually comes in nuance. So it might not be the jumping out of the car action, but it might be throwing away the resume that has Hashim coats on it because my name happens to be that, right?
Again,
so
action.
It's an action, or it's an inaction.
But Carter,
But that's still, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Carter, to your point, when you said that the judge is making an action, what if the judge didn't just explicitly on their own decide, but was more easily convinced by the arguments on the side because of the leanings within their own head, as opposed to just saying, nope, I see this, I see a black person, boom, I make that decision. But that white supremacy in their head made it easier for them to be convinced.
Well, I think the better question.
The argument to themselves, the lawyer made the argument to them. They didn't present the evidence to themselves.
I think a better question is, even if we are trying in our mind to be fair and objective, the reality is those prejudices are going to weigh on us no matter what.
Absolutely. That's the tough part about being a judge.
Why there are safeguards in place. He should be applying the letter of the law instead of using his biases and emotions to make the decision.
And for the record, that wasn't a question.
Like I know people that I respect.
Jaden.
There's levels to this shade. There's levels.
I mean, listen, I'm matching energy.
Woo!
Mine? I'm making enchiladas. You want me to bring you a plate?
Let me put it in a different scenario for you. Do
Making enchiladas.
any of y'all have family members who this would be our much older generations, and because of how they were treated by white people, do not like them. They don't want to be around them. They don't want to have anything to do with them, but they don't, right. So all they do is say, I don't like white people, but they don't go out there and call people names and hunkies and specifically spread that hate. But we know that they don't like white people.
I remember I told you guys about my father. He worked on a tobacco farm in North Carolina in the 50s. All right, just cycle that through. And the level of racism that he dealt with, to where he joined the service, he joined the military to get away from that level of racism. But throughout my childhood, there was no question that he did not like white people. Mm-hmm. There was no question, to where there was the moved to a white neighborhood, hated white people, and wouldn't let him over to his house.
But he didn't go around verbally assaulting them physically.
Nope.
It was just like understood that he didn't like them. So that's what kind of what I'm talking about, when if he were to act out on that hatred, then there should be a punishment. If he doesn't, because you can't get rid of somebody's bias.
No, and we were talking about punishment. I'm just wondering if it matters, because people walk around here knowing that there's a large contingent of our community that hates us because we look the way we look.
Right. Well, facts be known, we all, and I hate to sound so cliche-ish, but we all have our own personal biases and prejudices. I mean, it just is what it is. The question is are we acting upon those in any manner that, would bring unneeded and unwanted attention to ourselves? That's just what it is at this stage. It's a great question, but it's something that I don't necessarily want to think about, because obviously I'm trying to be on the more optimistic side of things in that aspect. And I know it may sound childish, but I there's a guy I used to be on a committee, on a board with. He used to always say, everyone starts out with an A+. Everyone has an A+ in my book. Yep. Until you show me that you're not worthy of an A+.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the overly simplified, optimistic view of things, but I guess at the end of the day, that's how I try to be in that aspect. But
you view them as good until they show you who they are, and then when they show you who they are, believe them.
So
I love
all God's children. Saying the glass is half full. The other one saying the pessimist saying it's half empty. The realist is like, it's piss, throw it away.
Of course, I don't know how you know that when it's in your mind.
But look yellow, you can smell it. Like, there's other senses that. And thank you. There are other things that I use to determine and interpret racism, other than things that are just blatant.
Right, trying to be objective and not just neutral.
Got you. Well, fair enough. That doesn't take away our innate ability to know. You get a feeling, that intuitional feeling, if you will, when you're talking to somebody and you just know that the way they smirking, kind of like you're doing now, or the way they looking at you, or the way their body language.
Who's smirking?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't even notice that, Hashim.
But
you were smirking too. That's why.
I know. It's probably all blended in. You don't see color. I don't know. But one thing that you can't be objective on is if the Miss Lauryn Hill is a legend or not. Where do you all stand?
There's the question. By Frances Beatty. Lauryn Hill was not a legend. She just made a legendary album.
Right, and that's Frances Beatty on Facebook. So
there we go. Let's go.
Can you do one without the other? Can you make a legendary album without being a legend?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So then my question is she knew who Lauryn Hill was? It's not like you say the name Lauryn Hill and people go, who's that?
Oh, I'm gonna just get to the point. Lauryn Hill is a legend.
Yes.
Thank you. I agree.
If you're only looking at and that's unfortunately for Miss Beatty, she was very one-sided in that she's only looking at the miseducation of Lauryn Hill, but fails to take into account the Roots, or excuse me, fella, take into account the Fugees project, all of their projects. That woman was a lyricist from day one when she came out on every single Fuji project. In fact, the songs that I actually go back to when I go back and listen,
Yeah.
I go back to Fugees.
Yeah.
Defecating on your microphone. What?
Hey,
Right?
What does the word
Like Nina
defecate mean?
Simone, yes.
He was educating me back in the day. Sheesh.
and the way she sang on Killing Me Softly,
Mm.
it was haunting.
Mm.
Ready or Not, Here I Come.
Yeah.
It was haunting. It sticks into your brain. She did not blow your ears away. She did not have the biggest chorus. It was just her, and she got it in a way that it stuck into your psyche. I can't say that she's anything except a legend.
Well, I need to hear everybody else. Okay, so 2 people say she's legend. What y'all say?
I say legend.
Well,
Yes,
the fact
y'all
is,
legend.
Hashim brought the question up. So let's hear Mr. Carter first, and then I'm interested to hear the person who had posted that link.
She's not a legend.
Oh,
Boo.
Carter.
You
Yeah.
just trying to.
No.
You just
I
trying
think
to take it out.
if you want me to explain it, I will. But if you just want to boo, I can say she's
No,
not a
go
legend.
ahead.
Move
No
on.
one's gonna interrupt.
Well,
you.
first
Go ahead.
let's hear Hashim's take, and then I want to hear whether it's a legend or not from him. But let's hear what you have to say.
What's your vote?
Listen
What
to
say
this
you?
foolishness.
She's a legend.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
strong legend.
She's a
What'd you say?
legend, not an icon. There's a difference.
Well, that wasn't your question.
True.
I'm just saying, she's a legend. You guys keep
I
missing
agree.
the answer. She's
Okay.
a legend.
All right, let me go. Let's
right,
go.
Carter.
Let's go, Mr. Carter, please.
Dude, what you guys are saying, the Fugees, Ooh La La, the Ooh La La, the Missing Education of Lauryn Hill is one of the greatest albums I have ever listened to, period. It is a collection of talent that I can put on X Factor right now and just go to another place. However, I also listen to the rest of Lauryn Hill's stuff. So I also listened to that horrible album she put out right after that was live. I've also, I think she was on a concert film with when the Fugees finally came back together. She had one incredible album. One. That album is legendary. Hell, that album is iconic. She is not.
Who made the album?
I think it was Wyclef produced a lot of the stuff.
Produced her work?
She had a lot of help singing. I think there was a couple uncredited verses on there. But yes,
So
Lauryn Hill made that
The
album.
Miseducation of Lauryn Hill is an iconic album. And look at God. And
What are you doing?
So wrong.
What are you doing? Do it, Lord.
and then
He's
the Lord said enough.
I love that.
Something said turn off his camera.
Drop the
That
whole
may have been the
song.
Lord himself saying, cut.
No, we appreciate dissenting opinions.
We do. We
That
appreciate
That was God. That wasn't us.
Yeah, that was true. That was. I didn't do
agree
it. You
with
saw
it.
my hands were nowhere near the equipment.
The universe said we don't want to hear it. You were done.
So let me counter and push back on his argument because I don't find it to be credible, in the sense that everyone puts out a bad album. Nas has put out a few bad albums,
Yep.
and he is a legend. I think he's
Michael
iconic.
Jackson.
Jay-Z's put out some bad albums.
Eminem.
Eminem has put out some
Mariah
bad
Carey.
albums.
Yeah.
And that's just on the hip hop side. I think there are legends on the R&B side who had great albums, iconic albums, then they put out some crappy albums too.
And
But that doesn't take away their ability from being legendary.
the industry, there are industry influences as to why bad albums come out too. Sometimes they're sitting on legendary work and it never comes out.
Mhm.
I personally know artists that have hits, but they fell out with the label and they can never play it. I
Yep.
saw the video and they never dropped it. They
Right.
never got paid for it.
Right, exactly.
And this one album went diamond.
Yes, it
Can
did.
we
10
repeat that
million,
for you,
10 million
Michael?
plus.
Diamond?
10 million
Diamond.
plus.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I missed the part where he told me
Oh.
it was a legendary album.
Watch the mixtape. Rewind. Listen to the mixtape.
Which
No.
mixtape? Are you
It's
talking about?
legendary.
Which mixtape are we talking about?
Really.
She's
DBT.
being shady. She's just telling you to rewind it and watch it later.
Yeah, no, we want an investigation into what's in your mug.
I knew it was no. I knew my iPad was going to go out, but I thought we could at least make it to an hour.
No, it's all good. You said something that drained extra power out, but
Oh my God, you guys are on
it's cool. No, what we were saying was.
So tell me a female rapper who's legendary.
Yeah, who is legendary?
female rapper who's legendary. Whew. I mean, you gotta help me on that one. I don't consider Lauryn Hill a rapper, though.
She did both.
I consider her like hip hop. I don't consider her a rapper.
She sang and rapped.
She did.
But she started rapping
Female hip hop artist.
She rapped better than the rest of the Fugees.
lyrically in her delivery, the tone of her voice.
Here's what I want you to do: define legend. How are you defining legend?
We're talking
A legacy.
Ooh,
Someone that leaves a legacy.
Okay.
Who patterned themselves after her, the ability to sing and rap in albums? Who does that today?
I'm not questioning that album. I'm not questioning that album. I'm telling you that Missy Elliott has 5 albums.
No.
She produced a ridiculous amount of work. She is a legendary artist.
He didn't say album. He said who did what Lauryn was doing after the fact and was modeled after Lauryn's blueprint.
Well, Missy has said that. Missy Misdemeanor Elliott, she doesn't go by Misdemeanor anymore. Missy Elliott said that. That was one of her tops. Nicki Minaj sings and raps. That was also patterned after Lauryn Hill. When you get to the point where people are copying your style, then you are a legend. But let me just put this out. But let me go back to the question I asked you. What females are legendary in the hip hop rap game? MC Lyte.
That was where I was.
Yes. Queen Latifah.
Queen Latifah.
Who
you calling the itch with a B in the front?
Yeah.
You and
But you guys aren't on the same. You guys aren't on the, you're making my case for me.
No, we're not.
One's a legendary album, and then you're talking about these legendary artists that have gone over
and put out
decades.
Some of them didn't have great. The whole album was not great. Some of them still had music that was not the best.
Okay.
Wait a minute. What?
No. It took them multiple albums to achieve the status that Lauryn did in one. That would be
spot on. Thank you.
Hey, you know what? I feel like that's a good closer. We're gonna end on time. I'm just looking
them.
We're 2 minutes late, but still.
Yeah, we're 2 minutes late still. So Carter, I'm gonna let you go first.
That's some old bull.
I'm gonna let Carter go first because he has something in his cup apparently.
You know what? Let me tell you something. I'm sorry, dude. It was one album. It was one album, and you guys keep changing the floor and changing.
It wasn't one album.
It was one album.
That went.
It wasn't.
She had one album. She was part of the Fugees.
Yeah, more than one album.
Her artwork on the.
She had one legendary. Name another album she made that is legendary.
No.
It's even good.
No. The thing is, Lauryn Hill as a whole and everything that she has done is legendary.
Right.
Yes. You are diverting it to that one project, right? Because that project did go diamond, but Lauryn Hill had more than one piece of work. Is Biggie legendary?
Yeah, he's iconic.
Iconic. Wow, really?
Why'd you pivot?
Oh,
You called out a pivot earlier. That was
How many albums did he have?
3, maybe 4.
When he was alive?
Yes.
See, that's where I may get into the
lifetime.
Do I
He
consider
dropped
him
3 of them in his lifetime. He dropped one right after he died.
Juicy and Ready to Die, but Life After Death came after he died, right?
Life After Death came after he died?
No, he was alive for Life After Death.
I thought he was dead by that time.
I thought he was.
Nope.
Because they had
He
to
was
bring
alive.
in
He was in the Honey video.
They had to bring
was
in
in the
the to help out.
He was alive in Life After Death when Bone and Biggie came out. He was alive.
I think
He
Biggie's a
died
legend.
during.
I think he's a legend, but
promotional.
iconic is hard for me at this stage. But I'm an old school hip hop head, right?
I don't know. Icon doesn't mean much.
I think he's an icon.
Well, I think he's an icon for rappers, in that time.
But Lauryn can't be a legend.
Who?
Right.
But Lauryn can't be a legend.
I know. Is Tupac legendary?
Yes,
Is
Tupac's an
Tupac-
icon.
Oh, don't do this.
An
Tupac,
icon.
Tupac, and then you, Biggie's iconic. I'm ready,
Fall for
guys.
Jordan.
All right, I know we can cut it off.
No,
Just one last
because
question.
Tupac is higher than
One
Biggie.
last question.
That's why.
Is Big Boy of Outkast,
See,
is he a legend?
That is they're both. He's higher than all the rest. That's
Really?
Thank you. Yes. And with that, ladies and gentlemen,
Outkast,
Carter
yeah,
makes up for it.
Stage
Peace out,
presence.
everyone.
Yeah.
We out of here.
DBT. What is love? It's a drug. Let it rotate, just to get back in it. Calling me an Uber just to get back to you. Hit the cash out like pay, I spend it. Is it really worth the wait? I don't get it. Divide and gravitate. Taste that wet emoji got me higher out of space.